one. Welcome back to the Jagged Edge. Javal, how are you doing?
Booked my New Orleans trip, so we're gonna be out there, gonna be eating good, and hopefully the Jags get a dub.
All right, Javal. I usually do the introductions, but I feel like since you are in a very, I don't know, you got the bucket hat. I will let you do the introduction for once. Introduce our fine guest here today.
Fine is an understatement, but we have the man, the myth, the legend himself, FAU's finest, Demetrius Harvey. How are you doing?
Yes, sir. I'm doing all right. How you guys doing?
I'm doing wonderful. I had to stay an extra 2 hours of work today, but I'm actually doing wonderful now since I get to
Yeah,
talk to you guys today.
I know that feel.
I just Googled Demetrius on it just says Demetrius Harvey is a beat writer covering the Florida Gators, including football, basketball,
Yeah,
and recruiting. He currently serves as the deputy editor for Sports Illustrated All Gators. Also covers the Jags, by the way.
That
So
was way
yeah,
before then. That's
yeah.
right.
That's an old bio. I guess it just saved on Google, and I don't know how to shake it. Maybe if I delete the one from SI, I haven't told Zach to do that, but yeah, he used to cover the Florida Gators. I'm probably to blame why Dan Mullen, failed because as soon as I started covering them, after that Trask year, that was it. And,
you know
you
what?
know,
Can you go back to covering them? I don't know.
Oh boy. I mean, I'm
no,
not a
I
I've
Gator. I am a Gator fan, but I'm not a big Gator guy like I know a lot of Jacksonville is. So,
mhm.
it's tough being a Gator
Yeah,
fan. And
I,
it's
I
probably
don't
gonna be
think.
tough tomorrow,
Yeah,
probably too.
I don't think the city of Jacksonville wants me to go back, and that's okay. I'm down. I'm fine
you're
with just
you're
covering the
you're
You're
Jags.
fine
you're
covering this
perfect to where
team.
you are.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
You get to
there
cover
we
the
go.
Jacksonville Jaguars when
You
Trevor
get to
Lawrence is
cover
our
an actual good
quarterback.
football team. I mean,
What? Who would have thought?
I was gonna say, wait a
Not
minute
us.
now. I can imagine saying that like 2 years ago
yeah, you get
about
Yeah.
to
the
cover.
Jaguars.
Yeah, you get to see this great quarterback every day. I'm like for the Jags,
Mm,
like not playing against the Jags, but playing for the Jags.
yeah.
Crazy.
No, it's never happened before for me at least.
I mean, for a
Yeah,
lot of the
it's
reporters in Jacksonville ever.
yeah. Honestly, sometimes I think about that. I'm like, if you joined and started covering the Jags, like in say maybe after like oh wait, for example, you've only
Oh
had
boy.
one good year, one, and not even like a bunch of average years in between, like maybe a couple, but like for the most part, one, like most of those years are terrible, and you've been doing this for over a decade. But now you get Trevor Lawrence, you get to cover a real quarterback. He's looked phenomenal. He looked great last week, besides the fumble, but yeah, he's doing well.
Absolutely. So I guess we'll just get into the meat and bones into this conversation. We'll just have to talk about the Kansas City Chiefs. Big week one opener. They did lose, but it looks like they're gonna be fully loaded once again. They didn't
Mhm.
play around after dropping a game to the Lions. They they're probably gonna have Travis Kelce back, and they gave a questionably incentivized contract to Chris Jones, but he decided to come back. How are your thoughts going into week one so far, Demetrius?
Yeah,
Or
I
week
mean
two,
this
I
is
should say. No, my
yeah,
bad.
week two, but it makes sense. Week one. It's week one for Everbank Stadium. So yeah, it's gonna be a great game, first of all. I mean, I think we all know that. You got Patrick Mahomes, best quarterback in the league, future Hall of Fame quarterback with Travis Kelce. He is playing. I think Andy Reid said that not too
Yep.
long ago. So he's locked and loaded. Obviously, and then on the other side, Trevor Lawrence and all the guys he has, Calvin Ridley and Travis Etienne. You guys know the names. So just that matchup in itself, like it should be game of the week. I didn't see who was calling the game, but it really should be whoever the CBS A team is. It's probably I think I saw a chart and
It's
showing where it's
Iron
going to be
Eagle
broadcast.
and someone else. I don't remember who the color
Really?
commentator. It's not going to be Nance and Romo for whatever reason.
You would think
That's
the Golden Boys of the current
where.
Golden Boy of the
Yeah, where's
NFL.
Nance and Romo going? Where are
I
they?
have
Like
no
what
idea.
game?
Let me
My
see.
guess is I think it's probably going to be Jets Dallas off my guess because obviously
Oh,
Oh,
pre Rogers injury, obviously Rogers,
yeah.
Dallas, America's team, Cowboys home opener.
Yeah, they scheduled these things out way in advance. So okay, well that makes sense. But anyway, this game this game is gonna be great. I think that both these teams, especially the Jags now, I really feel like they match up well against this Chiefs team. If you look at both of the games that they played last year, the 27-17 and then the 27-20 game in the playoffs, both times you thought or at least I thought, the Jags had a pretty good chance at winning. Had it not been for that fumble at the end, Agnew, whether he caught it or not, whatever, but that fumble sort of sealed the deal a little bit in that playoff game. But I feel like this team has sort of a bigger edge. With Calvin Ridley, I think that he really does add so much to the table. It's just like, you get that vertical threat. Now you have a guy that can spread the field and just make it just so much tougher for defenses to defend. Against, especially against a man coverage esque scheme that Spags runs in Kansas City. I really do think that this is a game that not only for Calvin getting open, but also for Christian Kirk underneath. And yeah, so I just feel like this is going to be a great matchup. The Chiefs obviously have their guys besides wide receivers, a little bit. But
I don't want to
but
jinx it too much
yeah,
yet.
yeah. I mean, the thing is, like when Kadarius Toney did his game, which was probably the best game of his career, maybe one more he had, but that was sort of fluky. If you look at it, Devin Lloyd was in position for one, he was wide open for one, so like I try to hold back and think like, oh, Kadarius Toney might actually hurt these guys because he did before, but this year I really feel confident in them that they have the upper hand.
Yeah, that's the one big question mark for Kansas City going to this game is that, Travis Kelce is going to get the attention for sure, but out of like a Sky Moore, Rashi Rice, and Kadarius Toney, or was it
They
Watson?
have
I
a
forgot the Watson. I
Dustin
forgot Justin
Watson.
Watson. Yeah,
Yeah.
They
somebody
have
else has to
7
be
receivers
open.
active.
Yeah, exactly. It's like someone has
Mhm.
to get open for Kansas City on Sunday. And, we expect Kansas City to score points. I mean, it would be foolish otherwise to think that they wouldn't be able to score points, but I would feel like what is Mike Caldwell's mindset going into Sunday to try to counteract Kelce and Mahomes in general?
Yeah, I think especially for Kelce, it's almost like you can't necessarily. It's not like a guy who you can say, okay, we're just gonna take him away. Don't worry about him, and then we're gonna have to worry about everybody else. No, you're still gonna, even if you can bump him at the line, you can jam him up, you can hold him a little bit, get away with some stuff. He's still gonna catch his passes. So what it is, I think Caldwell sort of talked about this a little bit. I don't know if he did or not, but you basically just want to limit him as much as possible. Keep him in front of you. Don't let him get behind you. Stick to your zones. Make sure you play sound defense with your eyes. I think that's sort of the main things that they're going to deploy. They're not going to play man up. You're not going to see, maybe you will like a couple times, but you're not going to really see Rayshawn Jenkins, man to man on Travis Kelce. That's a mismatch. It just is. So, that's sort of their plan there probably. I don't know exactly what their plan is now. Last year they just didn't do a good job of jamming them off the line. Maybe this year that's what they're going to try to do. Against Mahomes, they're really, it's kind of the same thing. There's nothing really to do to stop them. You can try, you can limit him. How many bad games has this guy had? Even the game they lost, I wouldn't say it was a bad game from Mahomes. It was more a bad game from everybody else. So you kind of just have to take away or take advantage of the takeaways and things like that. And I think that the biggest key for the Jags defense is this week against Mahomes specifically is that he extends the plays, better than almost anybody. He can hold the ball, like he usually gets it out fast, but if he needs to, he can hold the ball for like 5 seconds, and that's a long time for a defensive back to guard somebody. That's a long time for them to stay out in coverage. So knowing that you're going to have to stay out, you can't just give up on a play after a few seconds because you think the ball is out. I think that's going to be a huge key, and I think that's what Caldwell sort of preaching to the guys. And as far as the pass rush goes, that was the issue during the playoff game, and they just couldn't get it done. Josh Allen talked about it this week. It's going to be a personal game for him. It should be a personal game for pretty much everybody. They didn't get it done 2 times last year. They get another opportunity finally, but it's going to be really hard to bring down a guy in Patrick Mahomes who's I think Duraco put out a stat where he's third since 2018, or maybe first since 2018 in sack percentage, which means how many sacks a team gets per number of plays, whatever. So it's tough. It's tough to bring them down. Doesn't matter who the offensive linemen are. It's just going to be a really tough game for them in that regard. I feel like it's not a game that you can go after and be like, oh, here's what the Jags pass rush is going to look like for the rest of the season.
To me, the biggest battle and
Mhm.
what will determine the game itself is basically can the Chiefs O-line block long enough to Mahomes to
Mhm.
extend the play versus when the Jags secondary be able to force the guys to hold the
Yeah.
ball, because to me that's the biggest key. I mean, the Chiefs interior is pretty great unit. Their
Mhm.
tackles, I mean, obviously we know who their right tackle is, so it's going to
Mhm.
be a funny matchup to see. Donovan Smith wasn't really great in Tampa like
Mhm.
towards the end of his year, so if you can beat those guys, and Mahomes kind of has to get out of the pocket. He'll probably try to extend. Will the receivers be able to get open during the scramble
Mhm.
drill? Can the passers close in? That's really going to be the big key, because, the more the O line can hold up, the more Mahomes is going to have to hold the time. And I
Mhm.
think I think there was a stat, I don't remember where, but they said that like Mahomes' time to throw in like the last game versus the Lions was like the highest he had all season, because, receivers aren't getting open, which
Mhm.
he'll have Kelce, which will help out with that. But if you can even just jam Kelce and let him take like an extra 5 seconds to get open,
Mhm.
will the rest of the secondary be able to hold up? That's to me like the biggest question mark.
Yeah, and it's like, yeah, pick your poison, cover the receivers downfield, or Mahomes will make a 10, 12-yard run on a 3rd and 8, and it's just going to derail so much momentum because we've seen this time and time again, no matter who he plays, he can just
Mhm.
extend plays. And yeah, it's not even just to throw the football. If he sees a good chunk of green in front of him, he's going to take it. He's not
Yeah.
afraid to. He never has been. And it's a personal game for him too, because there was the game last year that almost derailed his whole season by being hurt in our game in the divisional round. So it's not even
Mhm.
just for us. He's gonna want to really prove a statement
It's
against
it's
us
almost
too.
it's almost demoralizing whenever Patrick Mahomes takes off and runs, because he can run. Don't get me wrong, but he looks like the slowest running quarterback I've ever seen. Like you're like, how is he that far down? How is he getting away from these guys? It's just like it's just how he runs, I think, which
Yeah.
makes it just look so much worse. It's almost like Big Ben taking off, and you're like, wait, he shouldn't be running out here. He's freaking 300 pounds, but this guy Patrick Mahomes, he just can do pretty much anything, and it's crazy to see.
Speaking of being hurt, remember obviously last game there was the infamous 98-yard touchdown drive where Jags
Oof.
legend led a touchdown drive. The Chiefs also have another backup quarterback who famously played in Jacksonville. I If we somehow get Blaine Gabbert leading a touchdown drive, then I don't even know what to say. But
You might
if
have
the Jags
jinxed it, man.
if the Jags can vanquish, I just feel like it'd be so Jags for like back-to-back years versus the Chiefs. Like backup quarterback, like Chad Henne. Oh God, they're gonna sign Bortles next year, aren't they? I just put it in
Just
existence.
get him out of the
Oh
construction site.
man.
Gardner
Get back
Minshew
here.
2025 Chiefs backup. I see it happening, but
Oh my lord.
Oh gosh, no! If Blaine Gabbert enters that game and they don't do anything but sack him and pick him off and limit
at
him
home too. Like,
at
come on.
Oh,
home,
yeah,
then you just
it's
gotta
legit.
pack
Yeah.
it in versus the Chiefs. You're
Whoa
never gonna
there,
beat
mother.
that team. Yeah, yeah, the famous quote. I think everybody started to just remembering back then. I think everybody loved him after he did that because it was to JJ Watt. I'm pretty sure his rookie year. He's running out of bounds and he's like, "Whoa there," So, but that was pretty much his only highlight here in Jacksonville.
But I guess another thing, speaking of like ex Jags, you know, obviously Jawan Taylor,
Mhm.
nobody knows him better than the Jags. If the first play of the game is a false start or like a legal shift on Jawan, I think I will actually just like laugh the hardest, because like every national media outlet was talking about like how is he getting away with this?
Mhm.
How is he doing this? Even Brett Coleman dropped a video and like explaining Jawan like what he was doing and how like the false start really wasn't the issue, but
Yeah.
because he was so in the backfield, that's illegal formation, trying to focus on it. So Juwan getting a penalty called in like his first game back in Jacksonville after all the national, I feel it has to happen, right?
It's gonna
Yeah,
happen.
it's gonna
It
happen.
it is, and the thing is, like the false start. Yeah, it's not that big of a deal because he does time it really well. He's great at that. Probably one of the best in the league. Him and Lane Johnson. It was the it was the alignment thing that was
Yeah.
throwing me off because the guy like Chris Collinsworth said it, and actually it was the only thing I've ever laughed at. Chris Collinsworth. He said he's a slot receiver in the backfield. I was dying because it really did look like it. He was so far off that everybody could see it. Coaches around the league are probably surprised that Dan Campbell didn't say anything. Maybe he thought that Jawan was tipping the team off on what they were
Yeah.
about to do, so he just let it slide. But yeah, that those alignment things never really happen in Jags because they would tell the Jags coaches like, hey, make sure he's not doing this and that. I guess they didn't tell the Chiefs coaches; they just let it happen. So yeah, you'll see a bunch of that, and I'm sure Doug Peterson's going to give the refs a little bit of a talk right before the game.
Last year that was okay, but this
Yeah,
year
exactly.
you got to make
Oh, I'm
sure.
calling him out.
We
Like
all are.
y'all see Jawan false
Yeah,
starting all
every
these times.
time he's gonna the Chiefs are an officer. So look for number 75. Look for him.
Yeah.
Make sure he's on he's on the line of scrimmage, not as a slot receiver, you son of a bitch. Give me yelling the entire time.
Oh man.
And
No, I
that's
know you
gonna
got go ahead.
it's gonna be great. I think the matchup I'm excited to see is just Josh versus Trevon. I mean, not versus Trevon, but Josh and Trevon versus John, but probably more Josh. I mean, obviously Josh
Yeah.
and Jawan, they were in the same draft class. They played in the
Mm-hmm.
SEC. They know each other. So their
Mm-hmm.
first game as like competitors, and not even just like, it's not like he went to the Bengals or the Bills. Like he went to the Chiefs, the team that beat us last year twice. I think this is definitely obviously, he probably the great Juwan, like they're probably great friends, but
Mm-hmm.
he wants to beat Juwan, get his sacks, Stat had some more. So, and
Yeah,
that's
didn't
also a
they
contract
mention
year.
that they
So,
face off against each other plenty of times in Florida and Kentucky as well?
Mm-hmm.
It's not gonna be
yeah.
the
So,
first time they really go against each other, just now in the NFL for sure.
Mm-hmm. It's gonna be the first time, and I'm sure they're all excited. I talked to Trayvon about Jawan today after practice and everything in the locker room, and he didn't seem too like amped up but he was only with Jawan for like 1 year, but he was like, yeah, it's gonna be nice seeing him. I'm gonna get after it, things like that. I think that the biggest thing here is the Jags just really want to prove themselves. I mean, and it's not necessarily to the whole world. It's more just to him to themselves. Josh talked about it like this game's gonna be personal for him. This is something that he's actually looking forward to because he's not been able to have he's had one quarterback hit against the Chiefs and 3 times playing them. He played them one time in his rookie season. So this is a huge game for him. Obviously, Josh is in his contract season. He's hella motivated. I think that he's a guy who I wouldn't be surprised if he ends up with like that 12 sack kind of year, just because of all the factors. Everybody doubted him, all that kind of stuff. So yeah, he's going to be excited to go up against his former teammate, his former draft classmate, SEC mate. I don't know if they actually are mates in the SEC, but it is what it is. And but yeah, so it should be exciting.
Definitely. I think we did
Mhm.
our basic conversation defense. The main key, just don't let them score more than the offense. And speaking of the
Yeah.
offense, despite a very mistake riddled day from the Jaguars offense last week, they still found a way to put up 31 points. So that's kind of exciting. And of course, as we mentioned before, a big part of that just having Calvin Ridley for the offense. Probably gonna have McDuffie on him the entire day, but do
Mm-hmm.
you think he just shows the young corner just what it's like to play against a bona fide star receiver and
Yeah.
Calvin Ridley on Sunday? That's the match
Oh
I'm
yeah.
most excited personally.
Oh yeah. I mean that's gonna be the big thing. I mean, Calvin, he's not. The crazy thing about him, kind of going off a little bit on a little tangent, but he's so calm. This guy, I wouldn't have expected. I didn't watch necessarily his interviews in Atlanta. I know he wasn't the top dog there his whole time. Obviously, Julio Jones was, so maybe he didn't do too many. He's the top dog here in Jacksonville, so he's doing once a week. But he's just so calm. The guy just doesn't. He doesn't get amped. He doesn't get too down. He doesn't get too high. It just feels like he's very in control of himself, like very a guy who's on a mission, kind of. He's just having fun. He's so thankful to be on the field. So in saying that, that sort of translates. When you have a guy that's playing that loose, that calm, that relaxed, you're going to see those concentration catches that he had between two defenders' hands. For most, definitely for us, but for a lot of other wide receivers, you're dropping that ball because there's things flashing right in your face as soon as the ball gets there. Kadarius Toney is a good example of what happens when that can happen. I mean, it's true, and so I think yeah, basically, and I think that's something to look forward to. And this McDuffie, obviously, he's a fantastic corner. He's young, but he's showed a lot. Definitely think that they'll put him on him if he doesn't just align on that side regardless. But I really do think that he's going to have a solid game. I have a feeling that Christian Kirk might be the guy to watch in terms of who's going to have the best game though.
I
Yeah,
think
go for it, Javal.
if I had to guess matchup based, I think also when I was listening to the Jags and they had a Chiefs insider, my guess is Legarius, like Sneed, is probably going to be a lot of outside, and then probably like Kurt goes inside. McDuffie's going to be in the slot. I know he can play inside and
Mm-hmm.
outside, but
Mm-hmm.
my guess if I had to guess between matchups, Legarius Sneed is going to be on really most of the day. McDuffie's on Kirk. We'll see what Zay's gonna do. And I mean, obviously with Ingram, but just I think it's gonna be a really fun matchup because the Chiefs, people think their defense is just like it's just Chris Jones and nobody
Mm-hmm.
else, but they have some talented players. Secondary, they had a lot of young players, but they really took a step forward. So hopefully, the Jazz can have a similar kind of transition with their secondary. But I'm really excited to see because they definitely have good corners, but at the same time, we have Trevor Lawrence, Calvin Ridley, Christian Kirk. Even last, John and I had a running joke where we would like name like the Colts cornerbacks, like who they were in the secondary. And the Colts defense, for what it's worth, I
Yeah.
think they played pretty solid. There was plays in where I remember the Ingram catch, like Trevor threw to Ingram on the sideline.
Mm-hmm.
He threw where only Ingram could get it, and Ingram, the cornerback played it very well, but Trevor just good offense beats good defense. So I think we'll see some of that where even if the Chiefs, and obviously with the Jags too, good defense beats good offense, so you can be in good position, but Mahomes. So I'm really curious to see how the matchups play, and just with Trevor, even if his guys aren't open, he can throw them open. So
Mm-hmm.
it's gonna be a fun game.
And yeah, I think Christian Kirk would probably have a little bit of a point of proof by only getting a catch for 9 yards on 3 targets. So maybe this is the game, like what you said, this is the game where Christian Kirk will probably get his 10 targets, 12. Especially since, I don't know, it's still engraved in my mind where he had that deep drop against the Chiefs last year.
Mm-hmm.
If he has that big opportunity, I don't think he's dropping it this time.
No.
I think it's gonna be the time to where we just let a deep shot happen and just have, the home crowd just eat it up if they do have an opportunity to get that big play.
Yeah, it would be fantastic for Christian. I mean, I'm sure he's not necessarily thinking about it, but
Yeah.
in the moment, once he does make the catch, he's gonna feel good about it because he's gonna remember that he dropped it last year and how much that could have changed the momentum of the game. He had a couple of those kind of drops last year. I think the first one was in the Washington game. I think he had a drop there, and then he did it against the Chiefs. So yeah, absolutely. I really do think that this is like a real big motivation game. This team is pretty amped up, but not too amped up, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
They know it's a big game, but they're not like I think
It's not Super
maybe
Bowl or bust.
yeah, exactly. Like I think that obviously for fans, like it's a huge like this is the game, right? But for them, they're trying to calm themselves. It's week 2. It's a long season. Even the Jags lose this game, it doesn't mean anything for the rest of the year. And then if they win, same thing. Even if they go 2-0, yeah, it's good, but it's not the end of the world in either direction.
I think
And
also going back to the week when we first played the Chiefs, I know there was a deep ball to Zay that he dropped. So just kind of, I think that's going to be the biggest key is when we're able to take those explosive shots on the field. If the Jazz can convert on those, that's going to be the difference because we were still able to score points versus the Chiefs without having a ton of explosives. So if we're able to get Ridley on a deep catch, get Kirk on a deep catch, get Zay, whoever the matchup, maybe it's Ingram, I don't know. Maybe it's Etienne on the backfield. You don't know who the big play could come from because of this offense. There's going to be so much unpredictability. But, just that offense, that element we were missing last year, like the big play, like the shot down the field.
Mm-hmm.
We work on those and improve it, then that's really going to be the biggest key because we're missing that last year. So that's to me, this is like the biggest barometer game for like the Jags. Like
Mm-hmm.
after they play the Bills, play the Bengals, Ravens, but this is like the first barometer game to see like, okay, how good is your offense versus the best offense in the league? What's the difference? How good are the teams? So I can't wait for this game. Can Sunday be here already? I need Sunday to be here,
I
man.
know. Yeah, I'm excited too, honestly. To just
this
to cover it
time,
even it's gonna be fantastic.
Yeah, I said, Demetrius, you're so blessed being able. Yeah, we talked about it before we
Hmm.
started the call or started the recording. That we're just. I couldn't imagine being your spot right now, just being blessed, covering a Trevor Lawrence, and then he has to go up against Patrick Mahomes, and we could be seeing this matchup for the next 10, 15 years, basically, for the
Yeah.
AFC, and it's just
It's funny that the first game that I covered when I was covering the Jaguars was against the Chiefs. That was that Jaguars
About the
Chiefs
Nick
game in
Foles season
2019,
opener,
the Nick Foles season opener, and I went into the
season
came
closer as well for him.
yeah, honestly. I went into the visiting team like TV studio where they do the post game stuff, and Patrick Mahomes standing right there. And I'm like, damn, oh wow, there he is. It's pretty cool to see that. And then now, 4 years later or whatever, he's coming back here, and the Jags are where they are. Back then, if you look at the 2019 team, there's only a handful of guys that are on the team right
Josh.
now that were there. Josh, Logan,
Um,
Dewan, Cam, Trey, Herndon, that's it.
defense. Oh my! I just looked
Shatley.
up. I just looked up 2019 Jags offensive coordinator John DeFilippo, defensive
Yeah,
coordinator Todd Wash. So
yeah,
just had a little bit of trigger warning hearing that last name.
yeah.
But
So it's a different team. It's a completely different team, but it's crazy to see how the Chiefs have just maintained it for 4 years, and that's something the Jags can do themselves.
My goodness, it's just such a big matchup on Sunday for real. I mean,
Hmm.
for you, if the Jaguars win on Sunday, what happened? So let's just say scenario, what are the plays, what are the moments that would lead the Jaguars to victory on Sunday?
Okay. If for the Jags to win, say it doesn't rain because that's
It's gonna
annoying.
probably
But
rain. Okay, let's just say yeah, let's just do it as what
let,
you
let,
think it is gonna be.
let's say it's not going to impact the game.
Yeah.
And if that's the case, I think the Jags win if Trevor throws for over 300 yards, he has 3 touchdowns. And then the Jaguars get a takeaway. They're +1 or +2 in the takeaways category. I think that's going to be the key. They can't give the ball away. You won't win. So the Colts, that's a team you can beat having the mistakes you made. If you throw an interception, if it goes through the hands, whatever it does, if you fumble the ball and Tank picks it up and then he doesn't realize that it's still live and they get a touchdown, that is not winning against the Chiefs. It just isn't. And I think everybody knows that, and no one would get mad at me for saying that. That it just is what it is. That Chiefs team is just too good to make those critical mistakes against.
What about you, Javal? What is your one big thing that happens for the Jaguars to win on Sunday? What happened for the Jaguars to win?
big thing is just limiting the two players who are debuting this week. If because even in the game, the playoff game, Kelce he had a ton of catches, but it was a ton of like short underneath targets. So if you're able to limit Kelce, or even if he has a big catch game, he's not ripping off like breaking tackles. You're able to limit his impact. That's going to be huge because outside of Kelce, the only other receivers that really scare you. I mean, MVS is a good player, field
Mm-hmm.
stretcher. I mean, I like Rasheed Rice. I think he's got some upside. I mean, Clemson legend Justin Ross. We'll see what those guys can do, but Kelce is the offensive focal point, besides Mahomes. So obviously, if you can just keep Kelce kind of in track, so even if it was like a lot of short catches, like if he has a 8 catch, 75-yard game. It's obviously he's getting open, but he's also not breaking the game open by himself. He's still just like digging and dunking. And then on defense, if we're able to limit Chris Jones, we'll see the amount of snaps he plays. But the interior offensive line was not great last game versus Grover Stewart and DeForest Buckner. And Chris Jones may be playing 70% of the snaps, but he's still a one of one player. This is probably the second best interior defensive line besides Aaron Donald. So if you can just the thing with the Jags, like even last year, Chris Jones wrecked the game, destroyed the interior. If you can mitigate Chris Jones, mitigate Kelce, the offense and defense should be good enough to where okay, you feel good to win.
My big thing personally for Sunday, time of possession. When you
Mm-hmm.
have the ball, make sure if you don't get that big play, you're doing positive yards, especially on the ground. A lot of the time that we were on the field running the football against the Colts, especially in the inside, not working. You got Chris Jones
Mhm.
you got to face. Try to force it outside. Screenplays, RPOs. I think that is going to be a big factor, whether it's ETN, whether it's Tank Bigsby. Hell, you can do a read option with Trevor Lawrence as he has the athleticism. Try to catch him off guard. And I feel like if the Jaguars control time of possession and, like Demetrius said, win the turnover battle, it would be easy. That's the reason why the Jaguars won the game, if they got both
Mhm.
that time of possession turnover battle.
Absolutely.
I think it might be a big ETN game.
It could be. It could be because the Chiefs run defense. I think it was probably good against the Lions if I remember. I don't
Yeah,
remember
they
too much,
they had a
but
good game against David Montgomery, but once they got
yeah.
Jameer gives a bit more involved, especially in that
Yes.
passing portion or just getting him outside the numbers, you can see ETN being kind of similar, if not better than where Jameer Gibbs was week one with only like 12 touches or whatever. You can get 20, 25 touches and be even more impactful, in my
y-
opinion. But that's just because ETN
Absolutely.
has had the experience and he showed that against the Colts last week too.
I think so too, and that's sort of the key there. Gibbs, for some reason the Lions didn't want to give him a full workload. They won the game, so maybe they're not too sad about it. But he really does make a difference. You can tell right away that he's going to be a playmaker. I think ETN, you're right. I think he's a similar, not in the same mold as Gibbs. Don't get me wrong, but he's a guy that can definitely get outside the numbers, and he's a guy that you're going to pass the ball to, and he can make a play. He made that touchdown at the end. It wasn't the blocking, he was able to,
Bounce
sort of
out. Yeah.
yeah, bounce out. Like as soon as he saw that there was nothing, he just said, "Okay, let me just get out here," and then boom, he made a play. So yeah, I think you're right. It could be a big Travis Etienne game. They just have to stick to it, which is why I personally thought that the three Tank Bigsby handoffs, I get it didn't work, so it looks terrible when you're just handing it off three times and then punting. But I think that that's something that they need to keep going. They can't just get away from the run game when one play goes wrong. They did that a lot last year, in my opinion. I guess the Texans is one game that I can point to, where ETN should have probably got the ball a little bit more. And but that's something that I think against the Chiefs they'll have a handle on.
Very funny
Yeah.
that you brought up Gibbs because I remember seeing there was a play last game where he reminded me so much of ETN last year, where he had a hole and like his vision, he just kind of like didn't create the best hole. So I think
Mm-hmm.
just even ETN last year played very well, but I remember on the last pot like that touchdown run, Travis does not make that last year. Like just being able to not only see like okay this hole isn't gonna work, let me just cut it outside, just seeing that growth and like continued how he's developed, I think it's a pretty big game, especially when you have Chris Jones on the inside. If you want to get some runs, you might want to try running outside a little bit more. So just you don't want to. I mean, maybe Chris Jones is winded, and you're able to get some big rips inside. I don't know. It really just depends on like the matchup and scheming. But
Mm-hmm.
if I was the offensive coordinator, I'm like you want to test him, see what he has, but if he's still Chris Jones, which you expect him to be, you don't want to keep trying inside zone and do it the whole game. Especially when you have a guy like ETN who we've seen can make big runs happen on zone. So
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I
I,
mean, I just want that ETN big run to happen. I just want big plays to happen. But my point is that, if that doesn't happen, just control the clock. But
Mm-hmm.
the excitement factor in itself, getting the crowd going involved early, whether that's a first possession touchdown or early turnover, just trying to get momentum and the crowd into it as early and as often as possible will also be a big factor. Since it'll probably be one of the largest Jags crowds, at least in the September game of all games. It's gonna be something
Should be.
special, I feel like.
It's gonna be packed, man. It's gonna be packed. It's gonna be not as hot as you would think, but really humid. Yeah, I think it'll be all right.
All right. Since I don't know, I'm pretty full in the meat and bones of all of it. I think it's time for
Mhm.
final score prediction, guys. Javal, I'll start with you. What's your final score prediction for Sunday?
I think the Jags go over 30. Just kind of they have to like the game plan is always to score as much as they can. I'm trying not to do a Super. I feel like 38. Like I know Super Bowl 38, 35, but my guess is the Jags score like 38 and the Chiefs score 33, something similar. Just I see this. Both teams are might be closer to 40 than 30, but my official unofficial prediction is 38-33 Jags.
Demetrius, what about you?
All right, I'm gonna preface this. So I think the Jaguars have a really good shot. I really do. I think that this team is fantastic. They're heading in the right direction. You got guys from top to bottom, offensive lines. I know they had their struggles last week, but I really do think that this is a solid offensive line. Walker Little, he's going to be a pretty solid left tackle. Anton Harrison's going to be a really good right tackle. I honestly wish that he didn't have that shoulder injury. I don't think that's ever going to go away this year. The defense to me is a really, really, that was impressive last week. I think that was probably the biggest takeaway last week should have been about the
Yeah.
defense. They only allowed 14 points. It was a fantastic game against like, in my opinion, an elite runner at quarterback. I think you can already tell that that Anthony Richardson's gonna be elite on the ground. I don't know about throwing. And Trevor Lawrence, there's nothing but good things to say about him. With that said, the
He's
Chiefs
pulling an MJD.
the
No.
Chiefs are fantastic, and getting Travis Kelce back, getting Chris Jones back, even if he plays limited, that's huge, and that's something that can really hurt your team when they need that 3rd and 8. They're going to be able to convert it this week. They're hungry. They've had 10 days off. It's the team that came into Jacksonville, a few years ago, beat them handedly last year. The Jaguars went to Kansas City, and that 27-17 game, it was close, but it wasn't really as close as the score, in my opinion. There's a reason why, and I just think that this Chiefs team, it's gonna be so tough to beat them. Going for them to go down 0-2, that's almost like a death sentence in the NFL in terms of playoffs. So, with all that being said, I do think that, I predicted already. So 27-24 Chiefs. Sorry to do it to you guys.
It
But
worked for MJD, so it can work for you too.
there you go. Maybe that's what I'm going for. But you know what? It can go either way. It really can. And 27-24, because every time Andy Reid has defeated Doug Peterson, it has been 27 to whatever. So
He
27
even won
points.
the Eagles like 27-20.
Yeah, it was 27-20 or something like that on the Eagles, and then 27-17, 27-20. So
That's just the magic number. Just get to 28 points and we're good.
yes, actually, I think that if the Jags score 30, they win. I'll say that.
Oh, okay then. Debbie Downer being the first ever guest on the show to predict a loss for the Jaguars since I've started this podcast.
I
That's
have to remain consistent. I
unbelievable.
said it on the I said it on the radio. I wrote it in print. I got to
I'll
say it
I'll
on
give
here.
him a pass.
Yeah.
Super Bowl champions. They're
Yeah,
upset.
exactly.
They're coming
It's a show me
back.
prediction. Yeah.
Mhm.
Fair enough. I have to be the last one. I have to be the homer here. I'm the legit one wearing all teal on the teal out game before 2 days before the game.
Mhm.
So
So Jags win 50 to
I'm very
nothing, right?
super what was that? Sorry.
50 to nothing, right?
Oh
No, I'm
no.
just kidding.
I wish, but I might be naked by the time of a 50-0 Jaguar wins on Sunday.
Get the mail ready.
Oh, oh my Lord. But I have to be superstitious. I remember seeing something. I don't know who did. I think it was Stevie. The last, like every single meeting since the last time the Jaguars have won against the Chiefs, they have worn a white uniform combination of some sorts. The last time they beat Kansas City was in 2009. Uh, they were wearing teal that day. And every single game that we've had in this losing streak against Kansas City, the Jaguars have worn any white combination at home and away. The Jaguars are pulling out the all teal out. Going to be one of the most electric crowds. It's crazy how this is the first official home game since that playoff game in January, which Javal and I just keep gushing about. Whether before, but it's like every other pod that we do. It's like legit, like it's probably the top moment of being a Jaguar fan ever for a lot of people that were there.
Mhm.
And this is the first game back. This team has, like you said, we've talked about it so many times, so much to prove. Trevor Lawrence, this is the game where I feel like he cements himself as an elite quarterback in the NFL. This is the game where Calvin Ridley really also introduces himself. He already did last week for 8 catches, 100 yards. That's already a good comeback, but I'm going to say it. We're going to win by
Mhm.
double digits on Sunday, just like we did against the Patriots in 2018. Well, I don't want the rest of whatever happened after that game to happen again because now we have the quarterback. I'm going to say 38 38-24 Jacksonville Jaguars. I do like the 38 a lot, Javal. So I'm gonna copy that. But 38-24 Jacksonville. Like I said, don't reach 27. So it's funny because I was the last one to kind of get to that point. So yeah, I think 38-24. I think just playing in Jacksonville in the most anticipated game since basically the schedule came out in April.
Yeah.
It just seems like this time for Jacksonville to get rid of another streak like we did so much before to end last season. I think it's time to introduce ourselves to the NFL for real this time. Big win for the Jaguars coming on Sunday.
This could be the game where we look back and it's like, Mahomes and Lawrence is like, the next Brady Manning. And obviously Andy Reid, Doug Peterson, they know each other so well. You have Mahomes and then the golden boy, the prince who was promised. So this could be one of the games, obviously people are always trying to find who's going to step up and face Mahomes. This could be the game for, okay, like, Josh Allen, good player. I mean, not Monday night was not great, but other than that aside,
Week
Joe
one's the week is
Burrow.
weird. Yeah, week one's the weirdest
Yeah.
week still.
I
So
mean between Mahomes, Joe Burrow, Josh Allen, Trevor played the best out of all four of those guys. So, we'll see.
and
But
Lamar Jackson, who had a terrible game against the divisional opponent,
Yeah,
but
he
we
was
always play
awful.
bad against the Texans though, so I can't really say too much.
yeah, this could be the game where it's like, and maybe we see the Chiefs in the playoffs again. I wouldn't really be surprised. This could be like, okay, like Chiefs Jags is starting to like these teams are really good offenses, and one of them has to win each other game. So this could be, like I don't think Trevor himself is itching to play well just for national media recognition, but if he plays well, people are already saying, Trevor could be a dark horse MVP. If Trevor wins this game, it won't be dark horse. People are going to say like he's the front runner for MVP because he beat Mahomes. So it's going to be. I mean, obviously, it's only week 2. If they lose, it's not like he can't win MVP after. It's only one game. The team knows that they have other big games to win. But a statement win this game, that puts the Jags like, okay, like they're gonna be next sooner than later, and not just like next year. Like by the end time this year ends, are the Jags gonna be like a top 3 seed in the AFC? So
I know. Like I feel like a lot of my predictions speak a lot of heart, as you can tell, like just the emotion of all of it. I know the players aren't really emotional, like you said, Calvin really cool, calm,
Yeah.
collected, Trevor Lawrence, cool, calm, collected type of players, but I think they also know in the back of their heads how much this would mean to the fans and how
Yes.
much they're gonna have the backs, defense too, especially. And I remember I know we all probably watched the sounds of the game where we saw that first minute clip of where Trevor's like, expect to dominate. We can do this. We will dominate. It's just having that mindset from week 1 to now going from the Colts to the AFC South divisional rival who he never played well against, especially in Indianapolis, to get that early double digits even after all the mistakes. I think they will play a clean football game, and I think they will be that dominant team they know they can be and actually show it toward the city of Jacksonville and for the rest of the NFL on Sunday. I just feel like it's just the time to finally arrive for real this
Yeah.
time.
If there's any other time to do it, it's now. I think I think you're right about that. This is a game where it doesn't mean too much if they lose. They play the Texans next. Who knows what will happen,
Yeah.
and then they go to London. But if they do win, I know what you mean. It just it would probably make you guys feel obviously amazing, but also just the general feeling around the Jaguars. It still feels to me, and maybe I'm off on this, but feels like nationally a lot of people think the Jaguars are going to be good, but there's doubts. There's like hints of doubt. Like they're
it's the
saying
same
like,
old Jags. The stench
yeah,
is still a little bit there. I think
yeah,
mainly off 2018.
Yeah.
yeah. People are still kind of they're like, yeah, I think the Jags will make it. It's like Peter King. I thought it was funny. He had them as the number
Yeah.
1 seed, best team in the AFC, but they don't go to the Super Bowl. I think that's sort of the thought process of, yeah, the Jags are gonna be good, but let's not put them there yet. And that doesn't mean that if they win week 2, they're going to the Super Bowl. It just means, at that point, I think you can start to put
Paint
them
that
into
target on the
that.
back. If they prove it on Sunday, that
Mm-hmm.
target's gonna be even bigger
Yes.
on them. Because guess what? You win, you're basically 3 games up against the Chiefs. So they drop week
Yep.
1, and you basically have the win and the tiebreaker against them if it
Mm-hmm.
goes down to seeding later and throughout the year.
And then
So
they get
that
an
just paints a
opportunity.
huge
Mm-hmm.
target. This is the time to put that huge target on your back, though. You want to be those guys. You want to prove that you're the best team in the NFL or in the NFC, AFC.
You got to
You
beat
win
the
this
best.
Sunday, and you start to set the tone rest of the year with a win on Sunday.
Yeah, yeah, and then they get the Bills in Week 5. So this could set the table for the rest of at least the first half of the season. I feel like
Yeah.
because you get the Chiefs obviously this week. You get the
Yep,
Texans
another
the next
AFC
week.
South game. Yep, you get a
Hmm.
third of your AFC South games out the way starting next
And
week. But
and then you get the Falcons. So it's like this has massive potential for them heading into the Bills game. We're thinking a little bit ahead here, but they could potentially be 4-0 if you think if they win this game, they should beat the Texans, they should beat the Falcons
don't give me
heading into
PTSD
the.
from last year and I had you on,
No, I
Demetrius.
no, I no, I know, but I'm just saying that should be the mindset of
Well,
if they do win, and if they
we gotta
lose, it
be
is what it
rolling.
is.
Yeah. Yeah, I know.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, you win though, we have to roll rest of the way. We beat
You
the
have
team
to.
that was off our back, that killed us or that set us home and ended our
Hmm.
season last year. We got that out of our backs. Let's roll rest of the way, basically.
There you go.
Now that
Hmm.
you said the tag, I think it would be incredibly Jags for the us to come out and curb stomp the Chiefs and then just somehow drop a dumb game to
Lose
the
the
So
Texans.
yeah,
But we'll see.
2018. Like I said, 2018 all over again. Like I said,
We'll
don't.
see.
Yeah, we're not doing that again, please.
I still
From
haven't
from
seen.
from what I've heard though, that 2018 team was very much they had circled that week 2 game since like the end of the previous season. You know what I
Oh,
mean? Like
yeah.
or whenever the schedule came out. They were that was their Super Bowl. So that's why
Oh,
when they beat the Patriots and then they're like, "Oh, we didn't win the Super Bowl. We still got to play next week." And that's why it kind of snowballed and failed. This team
yeah.
is not looking like that.
Yeah, like you said, this is like you said to us earlier. It's not the game to really think, but it's also like kind of a statement into
Yeah.
itself.
Yep.
Any final thoughts before we end the podcast today, though? I had so much fun talking. I think I just got so emotional the last time with you. So I'm sorry I went on tangents about how much this really is. It does mean a lot to the
No, no.
Jaguars organization, the fans, and of course you guys covering the team right now, Demetrius.
Absolutely, man. No, I completely get it. Like, obviously I grew up in Jacksonville, so I completely understand. You guys know. I know the emotions and how much this team means to y'all. And it's amazing to cover them. And honestly, like getting to know the guys, the players, that's pretty much what it's about for me is I love to be able to tell their stories and so to be able to tell their success stories now after telling their failures for so many years in a row, it's exciting, and that's what makes me happy about covering a good team, and it makes the story so much easier to write. I wrote an Andre Cisco feature. I don't know if y'all saw it. I put it up not too long ago, and
Oh,
just talking to
very
him
popular
about.
man, that Cisco.
Yeah, he's a
Just
popular
don't
man.
talk to
So
Very.
Sully.
yeah,
Just don't talk to Sully about Cisco. But the
yeah.
ladies and the gay men here, oh, they
Hey
love
man,
Cisco.
they're all over him. But yeah, and then the Chiefs fans hate him. So he's been a popular man this week, and but so I did a feature on him. Talked to a couple other guys. Tyson Campbell gave him praises. His safeties coach Cody Grimm gave him praise. Obviously Mike Caldwell, defensive coordinator. Then I talked to Cisco too. He does some music. He does comedy too, which is funny.
Ooh.
I wish I could have seen one of his comedy
I
shows.
would have
I need to
killed to
see
see
it. We
Yeah,
keep
his
Cisco.
calling out.
open
You're just like,
mic.
damn, we all need to see that now. What
Can you imagine? And his songs aren't that bad. Honestly, like I like a couple of his songs I listen to. So
Is it like
maybe
D-Ski?
yeah, D-Ski, and he has some on YouTube and some other places. I think Apple Music he might have an album, but it's not bad. You got to lower your expectations because he's not some professional artist. But anyway, to not be on that long tangent.
Better
Final
rapper than
thoughts.
Kadarius Toney.
Oh my god.
Yeah, probably.
I know he dropped like a song. I don't even know, man.
Maybe I should have commented on that. But yeah, so
Oh,
it was a fun feature. But to wrap it all up and give my final thoughts to you guys, I think this Jaguars team is fantastic. I really do. And I wouldn't have said that last year. I thought they were still very much a work in progress. But I've watched them now from not only last season but this whole off season, the training camp, and everything. And I'm telling you, I just would be so surprised if they were not a good team. And that's not even, there's no jinx. You can't jinx them here. I really do think that this is a really, really good team.
what about you, Javal? What's your final thoughts before we head out and just wait till Sunday, basically?
One theme, if you did not try to do wrap it up on purpose, that was a great transition. Speaking of rap music, but yeah, I guess to me, the biggest question mark is we've talked a lot about the secondary and how well it'll hold up. And a lot has been talked about the Chiefs, receivers and obviously all the drops. Tony played terrible, had like the worst PFF grade. Sky Morton played great, guys just weren't inexperienced. So to me, I'm really curious. I don't even know who Tyson's going to. I don't think it's going to be a game where they need to man up a certain player. Obviously, I mean, my I think Tyson could do a very good job versus MVS. I mean, Darius is pretty good player, but MVS probably a little bit faster. So I got my guess is Tyson. Is this we'll see how Trey Herndon looks. A lot of people have talked about, we talked a lot about the secondary and just how Herndon did have a good game, was good blitzer. So we'll see Herndon. I mean, even if Herndon didn't play great, I think Greg Jr. is out for the game with a hammy and Antonio's out. So I think the backup would be like Braswell at nickel. So we'll see
Yeah, I think so.
how the secondary holds up. To me, that's the biggest, will the Chiefs non-Kelce players be able to contribute enough? I think MVS can take the top off. You have to worry about him. Rashee Rice, we'll see work in progress like him. Justin Watson, another deep threat. Just how those guys, and obviously when it comes to Kelce, Devin Lloyd, the Chiefs had a giant target on his back last year. So I'm not expecting him to shut down Kelce or get a pick six, but if he could just, make Mahomes hold the ball out for like a split second longer, that would be huge. So to me, it's just really how does the back end hold up after, you know, a lot of criticism last year, which some of it was warranted, especially guys like, can Trey, can Devin Lloyd, can those players who were oft criticized last year, can they, prove that, we can hang, we can, even though our defense will bend and not, our defense may not be perfect, we can still make plays when we need to make plays. That's what matters to me. So, but at the same time, if they don't play well, it is also Patrick Mahomes and Andy Reid. So I don't want to be like, oh, we have to bench Trey Herndon, put in Greg Jr. next week. So
Yeah,
unless the
no
team
one.
wants to do that. So
Yeah, no, you wouldn't blame anyone for struggling or putting up points against the Chiefs. It is what long points. So yeah, we didn't really talk about it too much, but it is going to be a big emphasis. How will the interior offensive linemen for the Jacksonville
Oh
Jaguars
yeah.
deal with Chris Jones and the pass rush for the Kansas, or just the whole offensive line in general? Because especially during against the run, there were a lot of times where we were allowing a lot of that inside pressure. We have Scherf and Luke Fortner that are questionable for Sunday, whether they play or not. I don't want to ask you because I kind of want to keep that up for a secret too, just for the fan sake of it. But
Mhm.
if whether it is a limited or maybe not 100% Scherf and Fortner on Sunday, or if it's Shatley, and who would be the other interior lineman in case one of them or both of them couldn't be able to go?
Ants,
But Blake Hance, and
Blake
also
Hance, yeah.
also Doug did say though today that Sheriff and Fortner are going to play.
Oh,
So
okay,
is
same
it is
thing.
it's not a
Okay,
secret or anything. Yeah.
we'll
So
see
they'll
how healthy
play.
they are.
Right. That's a big key. Right.
yeah.
But
So
I'm
yeah,
banged up,
okay.
chat.
Forget all that then. So yeah, with a limited maybe potentially limited Fortner and
Probably.
Scherf against the interior lineman. Hopefully not. Hopefully they're 100%. They play
Mm.
their balls off basically on Sunday. So yeah, it's just trying to see how much they can limit the impact of Chris Jones being back, whether or not he's going to be at 100% fitness, or if he's just going to look winded for not being part of the training camp and on preseason program for the Chiefs, but I don't expect that. I'm just gonna expect him to be just Chris Jones on Sunday. So
Mm.
whether they can limit the negative runs and limit how much pressure Trevor Lawrence gets on Sunday is going to be a big factor in whether or not the Jaguars can get to that 38-24 that I really, really, my heart really wants to happen. But, at the end of the day, it's just hearsay and just wait and see.
Mm-hmm.
Once again, guys, I do want to thank you guys for always hopping on with me. This is basically the most, it means a lot for Javal to be my co-host, for Demetrius to come on once again. And it's just legit the biggest. I know it's legit the first home game of 2023, but it's legit like this is what the fans have been waiting for since
Yeah.
January, the middle of January in the divisional round last year.
Shout out Demetrius as
Absolutely.
always, joining on, giving us great knowledge. Everyone follow Deem. Tell the people where they can find you if they don't already follow you. Just you gotta
Yeah.
give them a promo.
Yeah, first of all, appreciate you guys for having me on. I'm down to come on anytime. I do a lot of different podcasts and radio shows, and honestly much prefer to come on this kind of podcast or with you guys in particular. So I appreciate that. But everybody, if if you don't know, you can follow me at Demetrius82 on Twitter. I refuse to call it the other name. And then I'm on the other apps as well, but no one else is. So I feel like there's no point in shouting them out really, but it is what it is.
Go read the Florida Times Union. Go
Yes.
read and support Demetrius Harvey on the Florida
It's
Times
free.
Union
You,
for
you can
real.
click the links. All the Jaguar
Support
links are free. So click them. Yeah.
guy Deem. Before you head out real quick, over under on the thirsty Cisco comments we'll see at the field. I feel like the first home game we're gonna see a lot of we might see a couple Cisco signs. Like here's my number. I feel
There's
like
gonna
he's
be a there's gonna be at least I'm gonna say at least 30, maybe in the lower sections, just screaming Cisco on game day. When he's warming up or something. There's gonna be a few. There's gonna be a few fans out there for sure.
honestly, if I'm looking at a picture of Cisco, looking at you, Deem, if I don't really see that much of a difference. Just I kind of see. I'm just saying, if
All
you
right, now.
give my guy Dimitri some waves and a 5 jersey, and he goes
Oh
to
my!
Jacks.
Oh man, yeah, right, man.
There's no way that's just
But
happened.
no, but it's great talking with you, Deem.
Mhm.
Excited for this game, and just once again
Yeah.
support our guy. Shout out to all the Jagged Edge fans out there. Yeah, just go Jags as always, man.
Can't wait for Sunday for real, man. It's just a wait now. All right, guys. Thank you. Like, subscribe. Like, this is one of the most fun I've ever had doing this show. And I think it's the whole shebang. Love you
Mhm.
guys. Hopefully everybody that's still tuned in to have a good rest of your day. Have a good night. Go Jags. Can't wait in 2 days. Y'all have a good night now. Peace.